Alright, stuff. Today's topic is one owner 1997 BMW Z3 2.8 liter. I'm the original purchaser of the car, still got it. The idea is to go over the maintenance that I have done on the car over the years. I've done 99% of all of the maintenance on the car. So I have a pretty good idea, and the intent is if you're thinking about buying one or you have one, things perhaps that you might look out for, be aware of, and I can say overall there really isn't a single overall issue with the 1997 BMW Z3, except I've had some cooling issues, and I'll talk about those afterwards. But what I'm going to do now is switch over and show you some videos of the car as it is in existence today. Still own it. One significant point that I need to bring up is this car has always been garage kept. Always. So that may be a significant impact on the overall condition of the car. I want to make that claim right up front. It's always been garage kept. I'm sure that extends the life of any car. That's enough of this, and I'll switch over and show you some video of the car, and then I'll come back for a final blah blah on the end of it. Today is the 24th of September. Hopefully this one records with audio for you. Okay, this is the 1997 BMW Z3 that I'm going to talk about. One owner. Just give you an overview of the car. Told a long time ago that black is the easiest color to repaint, and that's been true. Most of this car has not ever been repainted and it still looks pretty good. Original canvas top, the rear of course. Give you an overview of it. I bought it brand new from my wife. It's not really my car. I bought it brand new for a multiple year birthday, anniversary, Christmas present, and in 1997, and it's still running. I do all the maintenance on it, so I have a pretty good idea what to tell you that you might face, problem areas. Overall, it's been a very good car. Some of the main issues I'll talk about later, but I wanted to give you an overview of it. I think I already mentioned it. The canvas top has never been replaced. The window in the back, yes. It's a zip in, but not really. But you can replace that relatively easy. The inside was, this is a pretty minimal model. I had ordered one, but they said it was going to be 3 months, and I looked around and found this at a dealer. Someone had ordered it and then changed their mind about it. So when I went over and looked at it, of course, my wife fell in love with it, so we got what we got. It has upgraded sound system in it, which I can't say is worth a whole lot. There is a clock in there, and it's totally useless. It's an old LED type of clock. But anyway, that's the overview of it. I'm going to start, let it run for a few minutes, and then I'll get to be the talking head about all of the various issues. I thought I'd try also an undercarriage view so you can get an idea of what it looks like underneath there. We're going to try that now. There is no rust anywhere I'm aware of. Another major issue about this car, it has always been garage kept. Always. So, being a 97, it doesn't look that bad. The canvas top does leak around the windows at the top. That's not unusual, I suspect. I had an old Mercedes 230 SL 65, I think, and it would leak along that front edge where the windshield was, and no matter what I did, replace the weather stripping, it always wanted to leak. This one doesn't leak there, but you take it in a car wash, it will certainly leak around the windows. But other than that, no rust. Let me see if I can get an undercarriage, and then I'll start it up and let you listen to it. Okay, this is what it sounds like running, and this is a 2.8 liter. I'll talk about various aspects of it when I have the engine shut down, but I wanted to let you listen to it running. And the smog pump is still running because the car started up from dead cold. There's a high pitch wind. I think the air conditioner is on, and therefore the electrically driven fan is also running out here. There are a lot of variations of things with Z3s in the preceding years. They made various changes so you can run into different parts than I deal with on the 97. But anyway, this is an overall view, and you can hear it. Runs pretty nice. I think I told you that there was a garage fire, and here is still some evidence of that right there. I did not fully replace that. I did have to replace this liner and the wheel well, and the hood was replaced. They said they couldn't sand it down and paint it correctly again, so I had to buy a new hood and put it on. And the gill work here, the emblems and so on. But that was not crazy expensive. What was really expensive was the alloy wheel down here that had the tire had completely burned off, and I had to replace that. And that was like $600 for that mag wheel down there. But otherwise, you hear it's now shut down the smog pump. It's running the AC. Otherwise, and I'll elaborate on various later in the video, but I give you an idea. One owner, 1997 Z3, 2.8 liter. Not sure what else to show you for this. I'll splice it all together and then I'll talk about it. Okay, I'm back again. I did take a video of the undercarriage, but it just doesn't show you much of anything. And I deleted that portion. So back, I'm going to talk about the overview of the maintenance of the 97. And under warranty, again, it's my wife's car. I didn't drive it very often, but I didn't like the rear end whining noise that I got out of it when you took your foot off the gas and it was decelerating. It seemed to whine a lot of noise inside there, and I did talk to BMW about it, and they did replace the rear end on it. I don't know that it still does it. I mean, you know, when I drive it, I don't like the whine that I get out of the rear end, but there's really not much of a car around you when you think about it. I mean, really. You probably know convertibles have to have a stiffer body frame than a non-convertible because you don't have the pillars that stick up and the associated roof. And I'm trying to disappear again all of a sudden out of nowhere. Anyway, the rear end was replaced. The other aspect of it, I actually drove it from the dealership home, and I used what they call the cruise control because it did have that installed as an option, I think. And I didn't much care for how it worked. You would get up to, I would set it, and then you could obviously feel it when it let go and when it picked back up again. And I talked to them about that, and they said, well, that's normal operation. I've never had a car that had cruise control that it did that on, but that is the nature of the beast, the way they did it. I didn't much care for it. Those were the issues under warranty. I did have them change the oil when it was still under warranty, and I got it for free. But after that, and I've always used the synthetic, not BMW oil, but castor oil or some other fully synthetic in it. And I change oil every year, no matter how much miles on it. Now, this BMW has 88,000 now. It's a 1997 and it has 88,000 miles. So it hasn't been a driven lot every year during its life. But early on, does come with a BMW did have the oil change reminder light system built in, and various bars would disappear until you said, okay, it's time to change the oil. Well, that's really set on a timer. It has nothing to do with actually looking at the oil or analyzing the oil. It's basically based on miles. I think it was set for around 15,000 miles you could be able to get. And for the first year or two, I made that, and then the car was setting so much. Some years it only had 3,000–4,000 miles on it. I didn't like that idea. So now, for the last 20 years, it gets an oil change every time it gets a safety inspection. No matter, I don't care if it's gone 20 miles, it gets brand new oil in it. That was just been my maintenance standard on it. I did have to replace the valve cover gasket. It started leaking in one corner. It was not a terrible job. I did do it myself. You can do it in the car. You don't have to pull the engine out or anything like that. Valve cover gasket's going to have to be replaced sometime. Hopefully I did it well enough this last time it'll last long enough. I think it went out at about 50,000 miles, something like that. I don't know how many years that was. Valve cover gasket had to be replaced. I have replaced the smog pump. It started making noise about a year or two ago. Acted like it had water in it or something, and I tore it all apart, and the old one, and I didn't really see any obvious thing, just maybe a bearing or something in there, but I have replaced the smog pump. The cooling system has been probably the major problem that I've dealt with. First thing, I don't know, it was early on, maybe 20,000 miles. Crack appeared in the thermostat housing and leaked all the water out. My wife was smart enough to shut the engine down before it extremely overheated. You don't want to overheat a BMW engine. You really don't. You can crack the head or do worse. So I had to replace the thermostat at about 20,000 miles and the housing. And I attempted to get, they make a fully metal housing. What was stock is made out of plastic. And I have to criticize BMW. They use plastic for various thermal type things. For instance, the radiator in the car, it has a plastic connection at the top and the bottom. The radiator itself is aluminum, but the fittings are plastic. And BMW has not done a good job on whoever created their plastic for long-term duration heat. They wound up cracking and breaking. I had a BMW X5, same problem. Anything that handled coolant that was made out of plastic eventually became brittle and broke. So I tried to replace the original thermostat housing with a fully metal one. They claimed it was. When I got it, it wasn't. I went ahead and used it anyway. I have not had the thermostat housing go bad again, but I've had 3 thermostats that had to be over the life of the car. They're mechanical. They're not electrically operated. Some BMWs have electrically operated thermostat. This car is not. It's fully mechanical. And I've had them go bad. I've had radiator hose, the top radiator hose has gone out twice on it. Filling the radiator back up and getting all the air out of it takes a lot of patience. It's not a one-shot and you're done. You have to start it up, let it pump, let it cool off, add more coolant, start it up, let it run, let it cool off, add more coolant. It is a very patient practice to fully get that cooling system full of coolant. You have to have the heat on to get heat through the, okay. Cooling system's been the biggest issue. The second big issue is the air conditioner never really worked very well. It is a convertible, with a black top and it's a black car. So you set it in the sun, it's going to get very hot. It seemed like the air conditioner just never would keep up, and it's geared right off the flywheel, so obviously the faster you go, the more cooling effects you get. But if you're sitting around town, it just wasn't cutting it. Now, I have put gauge on the I call it Freon, refrigerant in the cooling system, and it has leaked down several times. Now this last time I used a good bit of sealant in it and loaded it up good. It seems to be holding well, and it's actually working better now than I think it ever has. It did not work very well at all from the factory. I don't know why. I think it had a charge at the time, but something wasn't right, and I don't know what it was. But the cooling system can be an issue. And you have to understand it's a black canvas top, and sits in the sun, it's black interior, black car, it's going to get hot. Those are the major things. The majorest thing was it developed a rattle in the catalytic converter. It was definitely internal to the catalytic converter, and it was annoying. And I said, okay, well, I can replace that. And I did. I bought an aftermarket catalytic converter. Supposedly it was legal, and that's one thing you run into if you start trying to look at catalytic converters. If they're 49 or 50 state legal, is what they say. Okay, I bought one, put it on, and I seemed to be fine, except the fuel control management system, the check engine light, if you will. It waits for about 70 miles before it actually tests the oxygen sensors, the pre-catalytic and the post-catalytic oxygen sensors. And if they're not running perfectly right, it will kick the check engine light. And in my case, this aftermarket catalytic converter was the problem. I tried everything. You know, maybe I actually replaced the purge valve on the fueling system in the rear of the car. That was not the problem, but I replaced it. The problem was the catalytic converter that I bought aftermarket would not cut it. Now, early on, I invested in a scan tool, which you would connect up to the electrical connection that's underneath the hood. And with a scan tool and a PC, I could see all kinds of parameters about that engine. This was a 97, but it still would show you. And one of the things it would show you the O2 sensors and how they were oscillating in time based on if it was a cold startup. And as you probably know, that's the reason the smog pump kicks on when you first start the car up, because those oxygen sensors have little heaters in them. The oxygen sensors only really work when they come up to a certain temperature, and it takes a while for the car to get hot enough for them to reach that temperature that they're accurate enough for the fuel management system to do what it's supposed to do. Okay, I don't know if you know this or not, but nonetheless, when I used my scan tool, I could see there was a variation, significant variation, in both the pre and post O2 sensors. And it was basically the catalytic converter on the post O2 sensor was not stable. It would vary all the time, and that's what was kicking on my check engine light. So I wound up having to buy a BMW, official OEM BMW catalytic converter to go in that car. Once I did that, it's never started check engine light again. That's a big warning. Apparently this is not uncommon. My daughter had a Volkswagen, whatever it was. They replaced the catalytic converter in that car 4 or 5 different times, and it continued to throw a check engine light. It was a little too sensitive. The fuel management system probably needed some sort of software update. The Z3 has no sort of updating on its fuel management computer, or the onboard computer, if you want to call it that. There are no firmware updates or hardware updates to it, nothing like that. I've never had a problem with that. I told you the car was in a fire, a garage fire. The insurance company claimed it was total because the fire had been on the side where all of the fuel management electronics are housed. I took a chance on it. I bought it back from them. I rebuilt the car, and it's been fine. That heat did not impact the fuel management computer on that side, nor did it impact. I have what do you call it? Anti-lock brakes on the car. It did not impact that either. It didn't burn the camera stop either. It was really weird. And I have replaced the windshield. I was told that it was just a matter of age, that it was trying to delaminate. that was not clear enough. My wife began to complain about, especially in sunlight, being able to see through it, so I had to put a new windshield in it. I didn't do it. It was Safe Life or whatever, but not overly expensive. It's had the same windshield now for 15 years at least. The cooling system, I've never flushed the coolant a time or two. Never replaced the radiator. I did have to deal with a sensor on the air conditioning fan. When the air conditioner is running, it has an electrically driven fan to help with cooling the radiator down. I did have to do something with that. I obviously had to take the fan blade off. It sets right on the flywheel, and I had to take that off to be able to do the thermostat work. Not a major deal, but I've done it 3 times and I don't really care for it. Anything with fluids are always a problem. On the rear, yeah, the lighting, BMW is terrible when they come to their connectors. They use little pins the size of a sewing needle. So like the sensors for the wheel rotation, I forgot what it's called, and also the brake wear sensor pad. There's a little metal clip that goes over the brake caliper, and that's got a connector to it. And those connectors, they're just made out of steel, and they're meant to be waterproof and watertight, and they do for some time. But you're going to wind up having issue with connectors on them. I'm not sure it's on all BMW cars. I had the same sort of trouble with X5. They use the same sort of little teeny pin connectors for wheel speed sensors and the brake pad sensors, and anything that had a connector on it was terrible. Okay, the rear latch on the X5, I had to totally replace that switch, the connector for it. Anyway, the connectors are terrible on BMW products. Hopefully they've improved it and gotten to a little better. They don't use copper. They didn't use any kind of thick kind of, I don't know what the point was using a sewing needle size pin in their connectors. They just proprietary to them, but it's a pain in the ass. So watch out for all the connectors. If you have funny sort of things, it's probably a connector. The other things in the car, yeah, we had to replace some light bulbs in the back, normal maintenance stuff. Tires, I'm on the 3rd set at 88,000 miles. It really is only one other time that I've had to actually replace some tire or two because of wear. Mainly it's dry rot because of age. The tires will actually develop dry rot and get cracks on the sidewalls and so on, and it's best that you replace that. I've only replaced one of the front struts. That was the one that was involved in the fire, but otherwise no. The rear, I don't know what they're called, they got out of alignment. You cannot do a four-wheel alignment on a Z3. The fronts require a special tool. I've never had them aligned, and there's no shimmy, nor it doesn't, it's fine. The rears, yeah, I do have those checked periodically, and they can be adjusted, but only the rears. The front requires a special tool, and most shops don't carry that. The tires, as I said, I'm on my 3rd set. They never wear out. They just basically dry rot, and I have to replace for that purpose. I have not replaced the brake hoses yet. I will eventually do so. Those things age. I looked at last time I looked at them. They looked solid. They weren't having any cracks or anything. So I haven't done that, but I certainly did that on my 65 230 SL. Replaced all of the lines that go to the hydraulics and the braking system. On the Z3, the cooling system, I had to replace a smog pump. The car used to start up and run really rough, and I could never quite get a handle on it. And what happens is between the airbox and the intake manifold, there's a large rubber boot. And I think from the design point of view, there was a miscalculation of a 1/4 inch or something. And it doesn't perfectly, it puts some stress on that rubber boot. and it eventually develops a crack. And that's what the rough idling was all about, was the boot had got a leak in it, it had cracked. The rubber boot between the air intake box and the intake manifold is a weak spot. You may have an issue with that because it will not set in without some stress being put on that. It shouldn't be. It should be stress free, but it's not. Okay, so that rubber boot, I have had to replace that. The car ran okay. I think about 2 years ago I did replace all the coil packs and all the spark plugs. Now, spark plugs, most of modern cars, they'll go 100,000 miles before you have to replace them. Coil packs, they can go bad. They always say change the coil packs in every car at 100,000 miles. Obviously, age is a factor you have to consider in when you're thinking about an old car. I did replace all the coil packs on all of the spark plugs about 1.5 to 2 years ago, and it's been running fine ever since. It wasn't running terribly when I did it, but it was time, so I did that. The radiator, no. Let's see, what else is it? There are a lot of hoses underneath the hood, vacuum hoses of all types. I have not had any sort of problem related to them, but you certainly can. There's enough of those. Now, I've never dealt with the oil separator on the Z3. I had to deal with that on the X5, and it was a pain in the ass to get to and replace. And on the Z3, I'm sure it's probably sits up underneath the intake manifold, which means you have to pull that. It's not a big deal pulling the intake manifold off and putting it back on. I've done it when I had to do the valve cover gasket replacement. Let's see what else. I've not had to replace the ignition, the fuel control management ignition system. I haven't had to do that. The coil packs, of course, take care of ignition. Nothing to do with the variable valve cover timing. No problem with that. I told you about the windshield. Of course, the windshield wipers multiple times. It is wear out. Never a problem with the wiper motor. The Z3, of course, has no wiper on the rear. And you got to be careful with that plastic in the back. My wife totally destroyed it one time using a shovel or something. Left big gashes in the plastic in the rear. That was part of the reason we wound up replacing it. But it will fog up on you. I replaced it probably 10 years ago, and it's getting foggy again, so it'll need to be replaced again, which is a zip out and a rubber, Elmer's rubber glue to replace that. On the inside, I had a problem with the turn signal. The right turn signal would not come on correctly. BMW told me that there was only one turn signal relay in the system, and that if the left was working, it was not the relay, so the only thing left in the system was the turn signal on the steering column. So I wound up taking the steering wheel off and replacing that switch without any success in getting that right. That it was actually, when I mean right, I mean actually the left. Everything is oriented from the passenger side, so when you're talking about something like the right side left car, because they made obviously right wheel drive Z3s, you always are looking at the front of the car, and the steering wheel is on the right side, so everything is referenced to that, and all their diagrams and everything else when it says. Okay, so on the passenger side, I had trouble with the turn signal. It wouldn't come on. And obviously was a rather simple circuit. So I checked and made sure the light bulb was in on the turn signal on that side. And I had trouble tracking it down. And what in the end I found was what BMW told me was not true. There is a separate relay for each side of the car's turn signals. So once I got replaced one of the two, and there were two, even though BMW says there isn't, there is in my version of the car. It may not be in yours. I had to replace that. Somewhat afterwards, I developed where the turn signal worked all the time, it just clicked really fast. Now, I've never really dealt with that issue. I've looked at the wiring, and of course, again, I told you connectors are horrible on any of the, hopefully they've changed it now, but an older BMW, that any connector is terrible. Anyway, I've looked at all the connectors, I've even replaced some connectors, and it still will flash fast. Maybe it's the relay, and I just haven't, it works, it passes inspection, so I don't deal with it. But you got to be aware of that. I've not had a fuse issue per se. I have on older, I've had Triumphs, I've had MGs. I didn't have so much of a problem with the Mercedes, but the fuse box itself is under the hood. So eventually it can get some corrosion in there, or just humidity and whatever, so you may have to deal with a fuse issue now and then. Other things associated with it. The inside of the car, I've not had any problem with the hood latch. It's always worked. I do keep those connectors, the fittings, if you will, the things that move, the cable and so on, all greased up periodically. I do that. And I do clean out the engine compartment periodically. I've had a power steering leak. I think it's currently solved. It adds the sealant to it. It's not a major, I only check it, I don't know, every 3-4 months. And I do check the car every 3-4 months. It's old enough that it's warranted that you do check it periodically. For all the fluids, it's never leaked brake fluid. It's never burned oil. It has never used oil of any type. It doesn't leak oil. It has not leaked at the pan gasket. Again, the valve cover gasket, yes. But it's never burnt oil. And it does not use oil. Anything else about it that I can think about? Cosmetics, the door stripping on the panel on each door at the bottom says Z3 or something. That's simply glued on. It's not screwed to anything else. It's simply rubber glued in place and will come loose, and you can buy them and put them back in. The gills on the hood are plastic and can be easily replaced. They're not part of the hood if you buy it. All the emblems can be bought and replaced, and those are rather easy snap-in things. Like I said, black paint, that would make it easy to repaint the hood when I had the fire in the garage. I did have to clean the inside and the outside of the car to get the smoke out of it. It was not a major, surprisingly not a major issue. Neither for that car as the X5 I had at the time. It had some smoke on the inside. The Z3 does not have a cabin air filter. There is not one. I know you think it is, and every car has a cabin air filter. Not in 1997. There is no cabin air filter in the glove box or any place else, and you try to look up, you cannot find one. Now, maybe later years, maybe in 98 did, or some other year, it may have a cabin air filter. Not 97. I don't know what else to cover. I tried to give you an overview of all the maintenance things. I do replace the oil once a year, no matter how many miles is on it. Or if it got 15,000, I would definitely change it. I've always used full synthetic. It's an automatic, and I've never drained the transmission. You go, well, that's not right. Well, I'm kind of fearful about doing it, to be honest with you. I talked to somebody about maybe doing a transmission purge, and they said, oh, you don't want to do that. So I've thought about getting the transmission emptied and filled again. I haven't done it. I did do it accidentally one time, and I'll admit my faux pas. I was changing oil, and I shoved myself back underneath it too far, and all of a sudden the oil's coming out red, and go, oh crap, and I closed it up quickly. But nonetheless, I had drained some of the automatic transmission fluid out. So I had to learn how to fill it, and it's temperature based, and I had to get a heat gun, and I put transmission fluid back in it. But I do check the transmission fluid, and it never leaks, and it is fine. The power steering fluid is a little tough to get to see down in there, but you need to check that. The brake, as I said, has never leaked any fluid. I replace front pads, the front rotors. I think I've replaced the front rotors twice maybe now. Not so much because they were worn per se, it's just I didn't want them to get out of true. And on the rear, I replaced the rear, the handbrake brakes, actually a drum back there. I have replaced that one time. It didn't really, no one ever uses a handbrake except me when I pull it and I jack the car up. I don't want it moving once I have it up on jack. But other than that, it never got used. So when I replaced it, it was more of this, it's just getting old and I'm back here because I'm doing a brake job. And I did it. But other than that, very seldom you're going to have a handbrake problem. I think they do test that in Virginia for safety standards. They pull the handbrake and then they try to make the car go to see if it still works, but nonetheless. Brake pads in the rear last a really long time. I think I replaced the first set at 40,000 or something. The fronts, I've only gotten about 30,000 out of it, maybe less than that. So last time I had it from safety inspection, I was guessing I might need to do a front brake pad job again, but it was okay. And if I look at them, it's so little miles per year put on the car. But nonetheless, I've probably done 3 pad replacements over the life of the car. It's not a major deal. I only replaced the rotors one time so far that I think so. I have this all documented, and you should do that as well every time you replace anything. I do routinely replace the battery, which is in the trunk, every 3 years. I don't care whether it's having a problem or not. The life of a car battery is 4 years most. Sometimes you can get 5 out of them, but I'm not risking it. First thing can happen, and I've discovered this with BMWs and other cars. It'll be perfectly fine. You drive someplace, you get out, you go in, you come back out, it's dead. It's totally dead without any warning at all. So as a preventive measure, I replace the batteries in my cars every 3.5, 4 years. I sometimes go as much as 4 years. But I do that as a preventive measure. I don't wait till it's dead before I do that. And again, I keep track and log of these things. The battery replace. So I've had every 4 years, probably seven different batteries in the thing over the life of the car. But she's never been stranded that way. She has been stranded when the thermostat blew out or the hose blew off, and I could go and do a roadside repair and get enough coolant in it to at least get it home, where I actually then did the full coolant system repair that was required. I think I tried to tow one time with a tow rope. I didn't realize I was against the law in the state of Virginia, so I don't do that anymore. I try to nurse it home. Anything else about it? I don't care that it's automatic. It does have whatever that shifting is called. You can shift and do it manually if you want. I find it much more enjoyable when I drive it to just drive it like a manual. There's no clutch pedal, but you still have some ability to control as to when you go from second to third or whatever. Never any problem with the transmission at all. No slips, no noises, no anything in the transmission. The transmission, of course, it was in this year car made by General Motors. And not everybody knows that. It's kind of interesting that every other part that in the car I've ever dealt with or looked at or seen is made someplace in Germany. Now, I use a lot of aftermarket German products, but I try to go to the higher end. I don't necessarily get genuine BMW parts as a replacement. I can do with like thermostats. I can get a good manufacturer for that. I don't do the cheap ones, but I do that. I had to replace the weather stripping around the door handles. They totally dried out. I didn't want water to get down in there and go seep down inside of the interior panel of the car and rust out the bottom. There is no rust anywhere. I don't see a lot of areas where water could accumulate on the overall design of the car. I have had a problem, and I began talking about the connectors again. What they did for the rear brake wear pad, I don't think there's a wheel sensor back there, but I know there's a brake pad sensor on one of the rear wheels. And what they did was they ran the wiring harness back to a little box that's mounted up against the frame. It's and they routed the main cable in, and then from that there's another cable that came in. They connected, and then out to the brake pad wear sensor. Well, the stupid brake wear sensor light was always coming on, even though the, the pad was perfectly fine and there was nothing wrong with the sensor. There was a connector that's located back there in this little box up underneath. And I did everything in my power to try to seal that box up. It was not weatherproof to start with. And again, I told you their connectors are not very good. They have some semblance of weatherproofing, a little bit, but over time that failed. And I tried everything to make that box weatherproof, and I taped everything, did everything, and it's still the rear brake light would come on. So in the end, I just went ahead and fixed the cable that comes to it, and I don't have a rear brake sensor anymore in this car. And the brake sensor is just basically, I think the way it's designed, it's a normally closed circuit. So if the brake sensor gets worn through, it opens up. It's then open, and the computer recognizes an open circuit as a fault. So you probably may have trouble with that little box up underneath that is not waterproof and will result in a rear brake wear sensor light coming on. That was a poorly designed and implemented thing, as well as the way they did their cables with those needles in them. I've talked too much about this. I'm trying to give you an overview of everything. The car sits very low to the ground, and if you're going to drag race and it's uneven pavement, you are going to scrape the bottom. You're going to hit that post work, and you're going to, the nose of it, the plastic bonnet or whatever you call it up front, that's going to get banged up and scraped up. And my wife has hit something low enough up there to make that sort of, there's a, I don't know what material, plastic I guess, under panel that sits underneath there that kind of encloses the fan. She's knocked that off several times by bottoming out the front of the car. It doesn't take much. The car is only sitting like this much off the ground, 6 inches, maybe 8 inches off the ground. You can bottom out the car easily enough if you're not paying any attention. And don't do that. Be aware of even curbs and gutters and things like that. You can bottom it out and do some damage underneath that. This is way too long. Uncle Ron's stuff. Today is the 24th of September. I hope somebody gets something out of it. Again, one owner. It's still running. It leaves me alone most of the time, but not all the time. And my wife still loves the car, and she's approaching 80, and still gets comments about it. And I don't know how many there are left on the road, but overall, she really has loved the car. That's enough for today. Hopefully this will record. I hope it helps.